India's Waste-to-Wealth Playbook, how EPR compliance tech is creating a $12 billion export category. Nobody. The old approach just got more expensive. The practical edge now comes from changing process, timing, and tooling together. We will map trigger, incentive shift, and downstream impact before the close. That's not a sustainability story. That's a systems arbitrage story, and it mirrors exactly how India became a global IT services powerhouse 20 years ago. Recykal Series B, led by Circulate Capital, reveals a pattern Wall Street is missing entirely. India's extended producer responsibility regulations, which require companies to account for every kilogram of plastic, e-waste, and packaging they produce, created such operational chaos that it forced the development of genuinely sophisticated compliance infrastructure. What started as domestic pain became India's secret weapon in global waste management technology. The numbers tell you this is real. Recykal now processes 2.4 million tons of waste annually, up from 800,000 tons just 2 years ago. But here's the critical part, 37% of their revenue now comes from international EPR compliance contracts. These aren't pilot projects. These are recurring SaaS agreements in Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and the EU, markets where physical recycling infrastructure doesn't exist yet but regulatory pressure just became existential. Why could India build what Silicon Valley couldn't? Because Western waste management is a hardware problem. Trucks, sorting facilities, incinerators. India's EPR regime accidentally made it a data problem first. When the Central Pollution Control Board mandated granular tracking in 2022, companies couldn't build more recycling plants. They needed real-time visibility into waste flows across 15,000 municipalities, 200,000 informal waste pickers, and completely fragmented collection networks. Software became the only solution. Recykal's innovation is a three-sided marketplace with regulatory rails. Producers buy EPR credits, recyclers sell verified waste processing capacity, and the platform handles chain-of-custody documentation that satisfies auditors and regulators simultaneously. Think of it as Stripe for waste, abstracting away compliance complexity while creating liquidity in previously opaque markets. The platform now connects 47,000 waste collectors, 3,200 recycling facilities, and 890 brand partners. Transaction volumes hit $340 million in fiscal 2025-26, with the company taking a 4 to 8% facilitation fee plus SaaS subscription revenue. 3 catalysts are converging right now that could make this a $12 billion category by 2029. First, the EU's revised packaging and packaging waste regulation becomes enforceable across all 27 member states on January 1, 2027. This isn't optional. It requires digital traceability for 85% of packaging waste by mass. Traditional European waste companies like Veolia and Suez have physical assets but weak software. Recykal just signed a pilot with Tomra, the Norwegian reverse vending giant, to integrate their compliance API into machines processing 40 billion containers annually across Germany and the Netherlands. If that works, Indian software becomes embedded inside hardware that defines the European circular economy. Second catalyst, Indonesia's EPR rules for plastic packaging take effect August 15, 2026. That's 22 days from right now. The country produces 7.8 million tons of plastic waste annually but has zero domestic compliance platform with proven scale. Recykal's Indonesia pilot already onboarded Unilever Indonesia, Wings Group, and Mayora as anchor clients. Vietnam follows with e-waste EPR enforcement in October 2026. Recykal handles 17 e-waste material subcategories from India operations, technical depth that took years to build and can't be replicated in months. Third catalyst is the sleeper angle that most observers miss entirely. Verified waste diversion just became eligible for carbon credits under updated Verra and Gold standard methodologies approved in May 2026. Recykal's chain of custody. Data, already auditor grade for EPR compliance, can generate verified carbon credits with minimal additional overhead. Here's the math. diverting 1 ton of plastic from landfill or incineration equals 2.1 tons of CO2 equivalent avoided. At current voluntary carbon market prices of $47 per ton, that's $98.70 in carbon value per ton on top of EPR credit revenue of $120 to $180 per ton in India. Recykal takes a 15% commission on carbon credit sales facilitated through their platform. That revenue stream didn't exist in 2024 financials. Now here's what changes in the next 18 months. By December 2026, expect procurement teams at global CPG companies to mandate EPR compliance platforms as vendor requirements. If you're selling packaged goods in 3 or more countries with different EPR regimes, running separate compliance systems per market becomes untenable. Recykal's multi-country dashboard becomes infrastructure, not a nice-to-have. Watch for RFPs worth $5 to $15 million annually from P&G, Danone, and competitors. For Indian waste management peers, acquisitions accelerate. Companies with strong regional presence but weak tech, Sigma Global in e-waste, GPS Renewables in organic waste, become acquisition targets. Recykal has $23 million in fresh capital and a proven playbook. They'll buy physical infrastructure to feed their platform, creating an Amazon-like flywheel where software drives hardware utilization and hardware drives software value. The bigger pattern here is the regulatory complexity arbitrage trade that made India an IT services powerhouse 20 years ago. Domestic regulatory chaos forces software innovation. International markets hit the same regulatory chaos 2 to 3 years later. Indian platforms export. This time it's not just Y2K compliance or GDPR. It's the circular economy. Watch for similar plays in labor law compliance, trade documentation, and tax compliance. Indian founders are already solving these problems in the domestic market. When Southeast Asia and the EU hit the same regulatory walls, the export revenue flywheel begins. There are real risks. Regulatory rollback is politically possible if industry lobbying intensifies. SAP and Oracle could bolt EPR modules onto existing ERP systems. Voluntary carbon markets dropped 40% in 2025 due to oversupply. And managing waste operations across 8 countries with different regulatory frameworks, languages, and informal sector dynamics is brutally complex. But the signal is unmistakable. India's waste management export story is really a regulatory complexity arbitrage play. Recykal is building the operating system for global EPR compliance in markets where physical infrastructure is decades behind but regulatory pressure just became real. The $23 million round is funding software, not recycling plants. By 2028, Indian waste tech SaaS will be a recognized export category alongside UPI and IT services. And the margins might be better than both. Follow at Atlas Signal Desk on X for daily intelligence on how regulatory shifts create technology export opportunities.